Hey guys, Silverline here. Wanted to talk CBDCs. So this is a $100 bill, as you can see. Everybody is very familiar with this, I would assume. So what you get paid in. This is what you probably transact every day. Probably not in this form. Maybe more on your card or Apple Pay. A lot of people don't know what this is, though. Surprisingly, maybe my audience all clearly does, but CBDCs are a scary path because they already have a monopoly on this stuff. As you see at the top right there, Federal Reserve note. It's a private institution that basically creates money. They can create it, which is crazy to me. It's just robbery. You're out there working for this, and you're telling me there's an institution that is literally just creating this. It's almost funny that a lot of people use this every single day and they don't understand what they're holding in their bank account and their pocket. They think this is wealth. That is so crazy. Well, let me show you something here. The people of Zimbabwe, do you think they had the similar mindset? Probably. But look at that, $500 million. Their money is so worthless from the excess of printing that they had to get this high with the zeros. It's just it's just funny to me. So the crazy thing is a lot of people say that it can't happen in the United States because we're the world reserve currency. And when people say that, that just shows that they do not know history because all fiat currencies go to zero. It's just that's their track record. And the US is on borrowed time. They're no different. A lot of people now know what inflation is. I wouldn't say they know, they just think it's mostly increase in prices, but inflation is the expansion of the money supply. Okay? So with COVID, their excuse was to print all this money to, fund this, fund that, whatever. They created a lot of money. So when you create a lot of money, it needs to go somewhere, right? So it chases all these goods. You have all this money creation, you don't have all these goods. So this money's chasing, buying all this stuff up. You're talking asset prices, food, just everything you could think of. So that's why the prices go up. That is the result of all this money printing. So people don't understand that. They just think, oh, it's Joe Biden's fault. He's in office, he's screwing things up, or, it's this, it's that. At the end of the day, no one knows to blame the real guys, and it's the Federal Reserve. They're the ones printing the money. They literally print the money. They loan it to the government. The government doesn't produce anything. They just shift money around. They give you the illusion as if, oh, I'm helping you out. Here's like food stamps. Here's welfare. And I don't want to argue, get too political with it, because I get it. People do need help, especially, these times they're very rough. But you trust me, you don't want anything from the government at the end of the day. So the government needs to pay back the Federal Reserve with interest. So how do they collect this interest, you ask? Well, they tax the hell out of you and me. That's how they get their interest. So it's one of the biggest scams ever. And so many people are oblivious to it. They just keep going on their day working for this garbage. And one day this can be its reality. And this won't buy you anything. I mean, you can argue, oh, it'll never happen, but look at the last few years. In 2019, this bought you more stuff than today. You can just look back at your receipts, your grocery list. You could even look at rent. You could look at anything. So when people want to laugh that you're collecting these little coins or whatever because they're shiny, they just don't understand the value of this. This has been money for thousands of years. All right. And I keep using this beater, American Silver Eagle, as an example. It's just here on my desk. So it's easy access right here. But this is what you want to be holding. Okay. They can print this to infinity. For whatever reason, they can't print this. Okay. So the topic of this video was supposed to be a CBDC. I'm kind of going on a tangent here. But what happens when this turns to this? Okay? You probably heard the saying, they don't ever let a crisis go to waste. Okay? So it's kind of funny. What if I broke your leg behind your back in the dark? Then the next day I show up and I'm presenting you a wheelchair. Okay? That's how I like to see the government. They screw you over in ways, and then they point the finger at everybody else, but they'll never take blame for any mistakes, but they'll take all the credit for anything that's good. So let's say this hits hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is just when inflation gets crazy. You already know what inflation is, so just imagine it on steroids. Imagine it gets to this point. I could definitely see them introducing a solution, which would be a CBDC. They'll roll it out like, we'll give you your stimulus check like instantly. Just download this app. Oh, if you download this app now, we'll give you like $1,000 starting or $100, and people are gonna take it because they're like, oh, free money. No, this is currency. This is money. It even says in the Constitution that money should only be gold and silver, and we just strayed so far from that. We're already on this. You can argue that I think it's like less than, I could be wrong, less than like 3% of all the money is physical. The rest is all electronic. So we're already like 3/4, if not more, closer to a CBDC today. The only difference is they can't really program it. So a CBDC, central bank digital currency, would be, most likely through their app, and they'll just be able to track, trace every transaction you do. They'll be able to limit you. They'll be able to, if they implement something like a social credit score down the line, they'll be like, well, John, we really did not like your Facebook post, so we're gonna have to freeze your account or limit your transactions. This, anytime the government gets involved, it's just, they screw things up. They'll probably add price controls, and if you know anything about history, when they did like price controls, I think it was in the 70s, they did it for gas because there was a gas crisis, and it was worse. So you just don't want to go down that path. The way to prevent it is just don't comply. The problem is there's just too many. Some people would argue there's just too many sheep. They'll just comply, they'll do whatever. COVID was a perfect example of that. And you just have to understand the dangers of a CBDC. They can limit your transactions. They don't like what you say, they can just turn you off. You can't escape. It's like a digital prison. With cash, I'll argue all day this is trash. But it's nice because it's private, at least. I'll talk some benefits on this. You're able to hand this to someone, boom, there you go. There's no need for a third party to know for whatever your transaction is. I feel like that should be, our freedoms right there. I don't need to discuss why I decided to buy this or that to the government. So what I'm trying to get at is when this becomes worthless, you don't have anything else. You're going to have barter. So, you could trade this for that, but at the end of the day, I feel like this is your best bet. I know this is an eagle, but at the end of the day, if you had any kind of silver, whether it's junk silver, 90%, high premium stuff, you still have the power of cash in this. It's private. Nobody knows where you have it. You can hide it. They can't freeze this transaction. There will always be a black market. So if a CBDC does roll out, I just see entrepreneurs always find a solution to create a solution for people's problems. So when a CBDC rolls out, they'll announce like, oh, this is going to help everybody and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's going to cause more problems. They can censor you. They can shut you down. They can give you like a little stimmy allowance. And then, it can get pretty dark because they'll be like, oh, you remember that stimmy allowance we're giving you monthly? Well, you didn't want to take this medicine, as I'm sure you know what I'm trying to get at. So we're going to have to stop those stimmies until you can prove to us that you took this medicine. And it just gets down this really dark path, and you just don't want anything to do with this. So I know it sucks because, we have to use this. We got to use it every day. You got to pay your taxes in it, all this crap. I treat this as the monopoly money. I just use this every day, and I buy this, and I hold on to this. So many benefits for your retirement, to fight a CBDC, if they ever outlaw cash or it just becomes so worthless, nobody wants to accept it, because you already see some places you go to sporting event, some even theme parks. I've been to a theme park, Knott's Berry Farm here in California. I remember I had cash on me and they didn't want to take it. It's, they're just conditioning us slowly but surely to get away from this. They got the chip in your card where you just tap, 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 and it's just slowly conditioning us. So there's a lot of benefits to just stacking this precious metal. There's a reason it's called precious metals. So this has been money for thousands and thousands of years. You want to have this stuff. I mean, this is not financial advice, but I feel like putting all your wealth in this, you're just allowing a third party to just print it, to devalue the crap out of it. And then you're going to wake up 5-10 years from now and go, wow, I used to have 100 grand in the bank and it can only buy me an eighth of what it did 5-10 years ago. That's just an example. It's, who knows what's going to happen, or the whole thing's just worthless. So people argue these prices for metals is like manipulated. I get it. But one day the manipulation just has to stop. If enough people buy this stuff, they just cannot manipulate it further. So I do recommend getting some metals. Cash is not bad. I keep enough in the bank just to pay bills. Do what you got to do with that. Have a little emergency fund for whatever happens. That way I don't have to liquidate my metals. That's how I see it. I would rather pay all day with this dirty fiat money than to give you my real money, because I want to hold on to this and I'll spend this all day. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what I can improve on. Probably get some better equipment here, maybe a better layout. But I do appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.